The Office of the Prime Minister Press Office is the primary liaison between the Fourth Estate and the Office of the Prime Minister and Cabinet.
Every day, we are working to build a more inclusive economy and a stronger, safer country.
Hear all of the latest developments as the Davis administration carries out the broad mandate of progress and change. Our live weekly press briefings provide full access to current newsmakers on the most topical issues of the day. We facilitate prompt responses from cabinet ministers on the latest reports and get answers on the issues that matter to you.
Will any penalties be levied against the company?
OPM Press Now, keeping you in the know.
Given the nautical legacy of this nation, I am indeed pleased to be here at the legendary Marine Resort groundbreaking ceremony, a development which promises to complement our maritime heritage. This space will serve as a welcome economic catalyst for Eastern New Providence, opening up new opportunities for boat storage, more convenient routes to neighboring islands, enhanced access to marine services and instruction and adding a projected $158 million in government revenues over the next 25 years. That's good news, sir. Given the mounting perils of a warming planet, this facility will incorporate a fortified hurricane-rated storage facility, guaranteeing peace of mind for both local and international vessel owners. Moreover, over 200 career opportunities will be created for qualified Bahamians in the realm of construction, hospitality, and marine services.
Thankfully, mercifully, the record high temperatures experienced earlier this year in the Bahamas did not translate into a catastrophic hurricane season. We were lucky. But tropical storms and depressions did hit us. They caused high levels of rain, extreme winds, widespread flooding, interrupted our power supply, and resulted in significant costs and loss of revenue. Over the coming 6 months, before the next hurricane season begins, we can use the time to strengthen our National Youth Guard. We can build more homes out of the groundbreaking, carbon-negative, ocean-resistant concrete pioneered by a Bahamian company, Patana, headed by entrepreneur Rick Fox. We can also raise more finance using our blue carbon credits, backed by our extensive underwater fields of seagrasses, which absorb more carbon than the Amazon rainforest. We welcome the pledges made in the past 2 days at this COP to the Loss and Damage Fund. Surely, this puts beyond doubt the debate that the principle has now been settled: the polluter pays.
And thank you for joining us here at the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing. We are so excited to have you here joining us today, whether it is on the social media pages or here in the room. I'm now going to turn it over now to Acting Press Secretary Keishla Adderley.
Thank you very much, Italia. Good morning, everyone. Compliments of the season to everyone here and those watching online and on television. Welcome to our press briefing this morning. Now, as this year draws to a close, we're very happy to welcome the Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Mr. Raymond King. He has some very important and encouraging numbers about immigrant apprehensions this year, which of course speak to improved surveillance over the years and the forging of very important ties with our neighbors. We will speak to him about those numbers. Also, on a lighter but just as important note, it's almost Junkanoo time again. We have officials here from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, including the Minister, the Honorable Mario Boleg. He's joined by Chairman of the JCNP, Mr. Dion Miller, and Mr. Ellery DeVoe, who is the Cultural Affairs Officer and Junkanoo Coordinator with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. So what are the logistics like for Junkanoo this year? Can you still get tickets? Well, you can ask them all of these questions. And of course, our feature for today, in terms of our small business, we are joined by Ms. Chanel Ferguson of Delicious Occasions, and she will help us ring in the Christmas season with a taste of Christmas and, of course, her small business story of success over the years. But we will start things off now with Commodore Raymond King and those numbers on apprehensions for the year.
Thank you very much. Commodore King, Commander of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. This morning's presentation will focus on three aspects. We'll look at the migration trends and flows. We'll look at those additional transnational threats that we are faced with. And we'll look at the organization initiatives that are ongoing With respect to migration flows, the intelligence estimates suggest that the Caribbean region is still an attractive destination, an in-transit area for regional and foreign irregular and illegal migrants from areas, namely Latin America, Caribbean, Asia, Africa, and India. As it relates to the Bahamas, we encounter Haitians, Cubans, Jamaicans, Dominicans, Chinese, and Ecuadorians in surging numbers as of late. The Northern Bahamas, the mixed nationality migration to the state of Florida continues to increase. Statistics to date indicates that year over, for the fiscal year 23 versus the fiscal year 22, the migration rate has increased by 90%. 28 nationalities have been encountered, and half of that population were Haitian nationals. So we're looking at absolute figures of 1,500 migrants detained versus 800 for fiscal year 22. In the Southern Bahamas, Haitian nationals, we have seen a very significant decrease in irregular migration from Haiti to the Bahamas compared to previous years. Specifically, looking at years 2023 to 2022, we would have experienced a percentage decrease of some 22%. That is 2,800 migrants versus 3,600 for 2022. And I'm pleased to report that there have been no migrant landings in the Bahamas for the year 2023, reported, detected, or otherwise. That speaks to our strategy. We've been deliberate over the past 4 years in terms of migration and stemming the flow of Haitian nationals and Cubans to our borders in particular. In contrast, the Turks and Caicos Island continues to experience a significant surge in irregular migration to its shores. For the years 2023 to 2022, they would have experienced a percentage increase of some 150%. 5,000 versus 2,000 year over 23 versus year 22. They've also experienced an increase of some 70% interdiction rates. 40 versus 25 vessels intercepted. And as we speak, Turks and Caicos would have intercepted 2 vessels within the last 24 hours with some 150 Haitian nationals on board. And so we're working closely with our neighbor and cousin. There's a report of a 3rd vessel that we're all searching for to find that vessel out there before it lands somewhere. But there are always factors involved. The reason why, in addition to our strategy, which has been very dissuasive, and I've made it extremely difficult for migrants to land in the Bahamas, the probability of success with the migrants entering TCI, given its close proximity to the northern coast of Haiti, is a factor. Additionally, we have seen an increase in smuggling attempts, Haitians trying to get into the Dominican Republic, as well as a few landings on the coast of the eastern coast of Jamaica. We have favorable visa relations being used by commercial, air, chartered aircraft, and land movements by Haitians, utilizing the relations with Belize and Nicaragua to move towards the Mexican-U.S. border. Similarly, relations with Panama and Guyana to move towards the Mexican-U.S. border. And thirdly, similar relations with Trinidad and Guyana to move towards the Mexican and U.S. border. Also, we have an excess of some 580,000 Haitian nationals to date, June 30th of this year, who would have applied for the U.S. Migrant Sponsorship Program. So that's the bottleneck that they're experiencing. So we have seen a shift from the Bahamas towards TCI, towards the Dominican Republic, towards Jamaica, and legitimate requests to move into the U.S. under that program. For the Southern Bahamas, similarly, we would have experienced a diminished migration attempts to utilize the Bahamas by Cubans directly. Instead, the United States of America has experienced a steady flow of Cuban nationals in the southern Florida Strait. For the fiscal years 22 and 23, an average of some 3,500 Cuban nationals have been intercepted attempting to reach the state of Florida. Pull factors: the favorable visa relations with Jamaica and Nicaragua being used by Cuban nationals to get to the Mexican and the U.S. border, and also the U.S. Migrant Sponsorship Program. June 30th of this year, there were some 380,000 requests being considered by the United States for Cuban nationals. The other transnational threats, specifically illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Fishing challenges in Latin America and the Caribbean poses a potentially enduring threat to the security and well-being of the Western Hemisphere. It also threatens national economic well-being, harms fishery ecosystems, endangers local food security, impinges on national sovereignty, and is associated with transnational criminal activities. There are three important consequences that we should pay attention to economically. Revenue losses for governments, declining revenues for fishers, and loss of livelihood and food insecurity for artisanal fishers and fishing communities. Environmental consequences due to overharvesting, declining stocks, collapse of fishery ecosystems, movement of fishing activities to deeper waters, and overkill of protected populations. Thirdly, security consequences, given the nexus between transnational crimes and illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing as the leading global maritime security threat acknowledged by the United Nations. But as it relates to the Bahamas, again, our strategy for the past 3 3/4 years has been very dissuasive, very deliberate, in that we would have done extensive research covering some 20 years, and I'm keenly aware of where the poachers want to be every month of the year, every season. But now we're now faced with a shift in their strategy as we speak right now, what we are countering. Those Dominican fishing vessels are now using the territorial seas of the Republic of Cuba, and they're now sending those smaller vessels, those skiffs, across the Bahama Channel on the verge of the Great Bahama Bank, which makes it extremely difficult to detect those small skiffs with 2 persons on board. And they would move in a clandestine way at night back to the middle of the channel, a much larger vessel, still small, but secure the fishery products and then move to the mothership in the Cuban territorial seas. We have moved resources. We intend to flood the banks. We intend to dominate that area. But it's hoped that our diplomatic relations and conversations with the Republic of Cuba to complete the comprehensive maritime agreement. The discussion has been ongoing to create some obligation on their part not to permit those Dominican fishing vessels to utilize their waters to poach in the Bahamas. But we continue our deepened collaboration and cooperation with our regional partners, the utilization of satellite-based technologies, surface and aerial reconnaissance assets, as well as the local fishers in providing us with intelligence. And we remain resolved. With the anticipated acquisition of an additional aircraft, an additional vessel, flag vessel to be named Commission A.D. Hanna, His Majesty's Bahamanship A.D. Hanna, because we want to move beyond the Great Bahama Bank to the Northern Bahamas, outside of the Little Bahama Bank, the Bimini's, Arbor Coast, to the extremities of our exclusive economic zone, some 200 nautical miles. Because evidence suggests from the software that those international distant water fleets are doing some work in those areas, and we want to have some presence over there as well. As it relates to weapon smuggling, the proliferation of illicit firearms, ammunition, parts, and components have been prevalent across CARICOM and the wider Caribbean in recent years, and I'm sure the Commissioner of Police would have spoken to the weapons, smuggling of illegal weapons, arms, and ammunition. Given our region's porous borders and a strategic location as a key transshipment point, established firearms tracking routes from the United States to the Caribbean, the United States directly to the Bahamas, directly from the United States to Jamaica, directly from the United States to Trinidad, and to Jamaica via Haiti. Methods: shipping containers, ship appliances and vehicles, the use of courier services, and pleasure crafts. Most of our operations when it comes to illicit drug smuggling and weapons seizures is done in collaboration with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We have teams embedded in their task force to counter the flow of illegal weapons, as well as the saturation patrols, the ceasefire patrols. We have members embedded in all of those operations, and we work closely with the Police Marine Unit, as well as OBBAT in the southeastern Bahamas. But our numbers, where our members would have been present, has been steady for the fiscal years 22-23, or some 350 weapons would have been seized. Similarly, illicit drug trafficking. The Caribbean is a popular transshipment point for cocaine, given its geographical location between producers in the south and consumers in the north. The main cocaine routes from the Andean countries through the Caribbean to North America. Secondly, from Colombia and Venezuela through Haiti to the Bahamas. The main cannabis route is from Jamaica, Haiti to the Bahamas. But it's worth noting that the United States of America and Canada are the main producers of cannabis at this time worldwide. The methods of maritime trafficking: use of containers, sailing vessels, fishing vessels, go-fast vessels, merchant vessels, semi-submersible vessels, and a term called parasite modality. That is where those large container vessels, freight vessels, the drugs tend to be tied off on the underside of the vessels and towed. And at some point they would meet smaller vessels who would receive those drugs from them. Methods of air trafficking: general aviation, air passengers. Our statistics for illicit drug arrests, we would have experienced a decrease of some 11%. However, in terms of poundage, we would have experienced a percentage increase of 217%. Thirdly, our organizational activities. Recruitment drives: we anticipate enlisting 150 recruits in January 2024, as well as some 30 reservists during the same period. Initiatives and resource acquisitions: we're moving towards acquiring 4 safe boats, but there is a prospect of another 2 through a combined government-to-government purchase with the United States of America. So in total, we're looking at acquiring 6 safe boats. The consideration for the procurement of a 62-meter vessel, as I mentioned earlier, as the flagship of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, His Majesty's Bahamanship A.D. Hanna. Consideration for the refurbishment of our King Air aircraft and acquisition of a new 19-seater Cessna Caravan to meet the demands associated with our decentralized operations. We have the imminent groundbreaking of the 3rd Maritime Surveillance System, or Coastal Radar, donated by the United States of America in Ragged Island. We're moving this month for soil sampling in Ragged and Eleuthera as well as Abaco, and we're looking to resolve and come to some agreement with BTC in terms of the use of the property in Exuma, because we want to move ahead with soil sampling there as well. The United States have already approved some 8 maritime surveillance systems to be placed throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Similarly, we're looking to get our final approvals from the Ministry of Public Works for our fuel farms in Matthew Town and in Gunpoint, Ragged Island, and so we could avoid the issue of having to come all the way to New Providence to refuel our vessels. We're looking at the pending commissioning of our damage control and firefighting simulators to augment our existing Bridge Master simulator for the professional development of our operations personnel. Our accreditation process is well underway to transform our training department into a maritime and military academy and center of excellence in this region. So we're looking at not only the professional development of our personnel, but our sister agencies as well as our regional counterparts within CARICOM. And finally, the full digitization of our organization's processes and procedures is well underway to realize organizational efficiencies. And before I go into question and answers period, I would like to thank the fine officers and Marines of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force for their individual and collective contributions towards the accomplishment of our mandate and associated missions, their unwavering support, dedication, and devotion to duty. Thank you.
Questions, please? I know you would have recently just noted the number of recruits that you're anticipating to bring in along with reservists. I know for some times it was a struggle in terms of retention. How has that been this year in trying to keep persons interested in the organization? Because we find, I guess, some would suggest that the trend is that joining these organizations is a means to an end, and versus making it a career.
Well, I can tell you from experience and having knowledge of the developed force, the armed forces throughout the world, they're all facing the same phenomenon. And that's why the United States of America and the United Kingdom in particular, they have designed training programs just in mind for persons who only want to join for a limited period, say for a 3-year or 5-year period. You come in, you're trained, you serve for a period, you're permitted to move on. The mindset and the value of work in terms of how I would have perceived work, and some of you in this room who would have spent almost 4 decades in organization, the value placed on the work environment now has changed. We're almost 4 generations later, and there are generational differences between values and belief systems. And so those countries would have designed programs just for those persons in mind, because some persons join with the intent of saving some monies to continue their education. What we've done, and I'm pleased to have received the government support, there are a number of incentives that have been given to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force in particular. We've just realized a benefit package just under $1 million in terms of honorariums, compensation for additional qualifications, and we have made it extremely attractive. We've also just recently received, as a part of our health package, services for dental and eye care, and persons would have been lobbying for those for a long time. And we have done considerable work internally in terms of rewarding, recognizing persons, because I am a believer of talent management, and our deserving employees. And for the last 4 years, the promotion that we are all anticipating before year end would be essentially the 3rd promotion within just over a 4-year period. And so it's not because of inadequacies in terms of management and leading the organization. The value systems for these more recent generations have changed. But what we realized particularly with this recruitment exercise that is pending, we would have lost a number of candidates who decided to move to the other armed forces. Because when the conversation comes now to being deployed to Haiti, it's a reality check for a number of persons in terms of whether do I want to make that ultimate sacrifice in joining the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. It is a reality. And so for the first time, we're experiencing a struggle in terms of being as attractive given this pending deployment. And I'm certain that that has a lot to do with it.
Do you anticipate a surge in illegal migrants coming to the Bahamas during the holidays? And if so, how is the Defense Force preparing for that?
We always strategically postured. We know the trending for migration. We know the trending. And the holiday periods, one of those periods, whenever we have a national holiday, weekend periods, when they figure that we're relaxed and we're in a Junkanoo festive mood. But for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, holiday periods and those really doesn't faze us. We have a job to do. We intend to do that. Our strategy has worked for the past 4 years, and we continue to maintain that posture and protecting our borders as we have done over the last 4 years.
And you talked about retaining more boats. How will that help the Defense Force if there's an influx or we see? Because I know you talked about there's a 90% increase in migration. How will that help Defense Force moving in the new year?
Okay, the 90%. Believe it related to speaking about the migration in the northern Bahamas. The challenge in the northern Bahamas, and we're working closely, and we have had a number of successful intercepts recently. We've been far more effective working with the United States, our counterparts, in countering the migration from the northern Bahamas, particularly the last surge with Chinese nationals and Ecuadorians in particular. But we continue to fortify our presence in that area. To stem that, we've experienced significant success. A number of arrests, may have been about 6 or 7 within the last 3 weeks. I could recall right off, there was some, I believe almost 30 Ecuadorians who were found at gunpoint near Katki, and that followed another group of some 15 to 20 a few days earlier. And so we're doing our work, but we intend to place more vessels in the Northern Bahamas. We have revived our ship rider program with the Coast Guard, and we have persons on board those vessels. We're making it extremely difficult for persons to be successful. I can tell you, very few vessels actually make it to the state of Florida. They have their coastal radars as well, and they monitor every vessel that leaves Grand Bahama or Bimini.
Just speaking of officers, I know the National Security Minister Raymond Rose said in October that the 150 officers that were supposed to be or selected to be sent to the multinational security mission in Haiti, they've been selected and trained. Can you give a demographic of how that officer, how many, and how the training is looking for those officers that were selected?
Okay, give you some background information. We have received our warning order from the Prime Minister that we will deploy, but we have yet to receive instructions explicitly in terms of the role or functions. But I'm providing that expert advice to the Honorable Minister of National Security as well as the Prime Minister in terms of the risk, the vulnerabilities, and my expert opinion. Persons would have been selected. A year ago, we did complete one iteration of training, but we have now moved into a different phase because the environment in Haiti has changed. And so we're going with 3 platoons, a minimum of 50 persons per platoon. It is expected for those persons to spend 4 months duration in Haiti. Those persons are being selected from all of the main branches within the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Intelligence, administrations, operations, planning, communications. You need persons from all of those disciplines, including interpreters, persons from our welfare unit, our chaplaincy office. And so those persons would have been deliberately selected. The persons who would comprise the security operations or the infantry operations, they would have been persons who would have been trained, not only just this national training that we're going through now. We have been the benefactors of a number of training exercises led by the United States Special Operations Command North. Every year we have at least 4 or 5 training and exercises in infantry tactics and military missions. And so those persons were persons who would have been extensively trained. Those persons, there's a criteria that must be met according to the UN in terms of the person's age, service years, medical, physical conditions. There are some criteria that we have to meet in terms of our selections. But we have selected the persons who would have been extensively trained. Every year, Special Operations Command, they come in country with their mobile training teams. We're training infantry, optics, urban tactics, and we have the annual Trade Winds exercise, which is multi-national and multi-agency, and there's always an infantry component. We've run several similar exercises called Coral Keys, Marlin Shield, and so those persons would have been extensively trained. Nonetheless, we are currently running an iteration now with the first group in terms of training, and so from training, they're going to be rotated, and we'll continue to work with the police with their saturation patrol and their anti-gang operations in order to apply that training. We have special U.S. Special Operations observers who are observing our training evolutions. That will be fortified by another level of training. We reached out to our Central America, South American counterparts, Chile and Argentina, who has peacekeeping centers of excellence, and we would send persons as instructors to be trained using the Train the Trainer program. They will return along with those countries' mobile training team, so we'll have, from a regional perspective, a more in-depth training in terms of preparations, and there will be another level of training once all of the Caribbean countries and countries worldwide come together. And Jamaica has proposed its country to be the site for that training, what we call the interoperability training, to ensure that everyone is operating with a common rules of engagement, use of force, common doctrine, language, and everything. So the training aspect of it to ensure that persons selected are at the highest state of readiness. And that is what we're moving to ensure, as well as getting all of the resources they need to ensure success. But I want to rest assured that the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, we've had an exposure in peacekeeping 94, 95. And we are fortunate that most of those young officers and Marines who were part of that peacekeeping mission are the planners today, who's now preparing this next group to go into Haiti. So we have the experience. We have the professional development. Right? United States Southern Command, United States Northern Command, the Rhode Island National Guard. We're professionally trained, and in essence, we have the military capabilities to perform extremely well once placed in those environments.
Can you say which month the highest number of retentions this year?
If I could recall, I think it may have been February. I'm thinking it was, about 563, but I could be corrected. And I'm good at numbers. When I read it, and I could remember it, it was in February. For the year, it's about 2,800. Entire year compared to 3,600 last year.
And majority of Haitian nationals, right?
Yes.
And will we seeing, I guess this time around, are we seeing more males versus females? What is that ratio?
Now, the Department of Immigration could speak more intimately in terms of the breakdown, but I will tell you we would have realized a larger percentage of women now comprising those groupings, as well as a large number of children being a part of those groups. I remember years ago, it used to be primarily men. So the number of females are increasing as well as the number of children. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Commodore. That review was very helpful. We are going to turn our attention now to Junkanoo. And if ticket sales are any indication, we're very excited about what is the second season of Junkanoo since the COVID-19 pandemic. We are happy to be joined by the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mr. Mario Boleg, and he's joined by members of his team. I believe the minister has stepped away, so we may want to start things off with Mr. Dion Miller, who is chair of the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence. So, Mr. Miller, if you can start things off to tell us about the logistics. And can I still get tickets for Junkanoo? All right. We see the minister re-entering the room. So we will start with Minister Mario Boleg on the plans for Junkanoo season 23-24.
Good morning, all. Junkanoo is a cultural expression that is loved by most or all Bahamians. And we know this is the time of year that this parade wants to be seen by all Bahamians. And it is the Bahamas and the Bahamians parade. Unfortunately, some persons did not get any tickets for the parade. But we want them to know that gone are the days that, when I was younger, we didn't buy no tickets. We just run down Bay Street and watch it from the side. But those days are gone. More persons want to now sit in a comfortable position and watch this parade. The governor of Bahamas, along with its stakeholders and partners, has to do a lot to put these parades on. And, thanks to partners such as JCNP, the NJC, also corporate sponsors such as Alive and Scotiabank, and many of the other corporate sponsors that financially support these various groups in order for these parades to be a spectacular one for all Bahamians to enjoy and see. And so with that being said, we are all one in relation to anything that happens as relates to Junkanoo. We just want to put on the best show possible for the Bahamians to enjoy this cultural expression. And so I have Mr. Ellery DeVoe here who will speak about the logistics and operation of the parade. And then I have the chairman, Mr. Dion Miller, who will speak about the parade management of this parade. But let me publicly say, as minister responsible for culture and Junkanoo at Youth, Sports and Culture, we can only apologize to individuals that they were not fortunate enough to buy tickets on time, and whatever technical difficulties that might have occurred, that Alive is doing their best to ensure that it is fixed. But as we move towards the new age, we must move away from having handheld tickets. This is a new generation of technology that is coming forward. And so as we continue to press forward in those areas, we will find difficulties that we will correct. And that's just a part of life and facts. And so that's something we must weigh and must not run away from. I was asked by a reporter the other day, so I can say it to these reporters now, that they said 40% of the tickets are held for government officials. That's not the facts. All right, and let me make it quite clear. All of those persons who goes to Junkanoo notice that there are chairs that is placed before the bleachers on both sides of Rawson Square. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture places 300 chairs every year to every parade for its government officials, for its judiciary, and all of those other persons who we deem in the executive and high branches of the various branches of government. And so we support JCNP in their pursuit to please their corporate sponsors as it relates for having seating arrangement made for them financially, because they're the ones who assist the government in ensuring that this parade goes on. And yes, we probably are at the stage where we are outgrowing Bay Street and seating arrangements. But, in due time, as everything in life, and as life moves forward, we make changes that is necessary. But at this time, the government of Bahamas, nor the JCNP or the NJC at this time, and its other stakeholders are probably looking at, in any form, way, or fashion, on moving Junkanoo off Bay Street right now. But when that time comes, the stakeholders will get together and make the necessary decision, and we could find appropriate place that will keep that feeling of Junkanoo together, then we will look towards that, despite what I hear some of these political statements being made, which makes no sense as relates to moving Junkanoo, as if it's some event you could just pick up and place it someplace and hope that you get the same effect and feeling of it. And those who are Junkanoos, I'm a former Junkanoo myself, we know what Bay Street brings. It brings that tight-knit feeling that allows that music, adrenaline feeling that you feel, and you can't go nowhere else and feel it around the world. And so without further ado, I just wanted to make those few statements and then bring in now the chairman of the JCNP, who will speak about the parade management and what we should expect. And then he'll be followed by Mr. Ellery DeVoe, who will now talk about the logistics and preparation of the parade under the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. As the minister so eloquently stated, Junkanoo is just 19 days away from the big day. At the JCNP with our PMT team, we are making our final preparations for this year's parades. We anticipate that this will be some of the largest parades that we have seen in our recent time. And indeed, since coming back from COVID, the love and passion for Junkanoo has returned in a massive way. All of our judges are trained and certified. The parade team are making their final preparations. The groups are making their final preparations, and we are getting ready to perform for the Bahamian public. As the minister stated, the parades, in ticketing-wise, there was some glitches that were experienced on day one, and that was due to the massive numbers of persons trying to purchase tickets both in-store and online. They have been worked out. I believe that you can still go online and purchase tickets. However, ticketing in the premium areas such as Rawson Square and Scotiabank would have been gone. Besides one seat here or there, but there are still seats available for the public to purchase. Bay Street or Junkanoo is bigger than Rawson Square or Scotiabank area. We start from Frederick Street and we work our way up, and you can still get exciting seats to view the parades. This year, we're excited to announce to the public that the Shirley Street Performance Cup will be named in honor of former Minister Obi Wilchcombe. We are proud that Zama group of companies have come aboard and added an additional $12,500 prize to that package. And so groups have an added incentive to really mash up Shirley Street. And so, of course, public or persons who may not afford or being able to get a seat on Bay Street can certainly go on Shirley Street, where it's a standing area, it's open, it's free. You can go and see that on the Shirley Street Cup. Other than that, everything is looking well. We're excited. And I'll invite Mr. Ellery DeVoe to share facts and speak to the technical areas of the parade. But I just want to encourage Bahamians, once again, there are some seats still available. Please go out and get your seats. The Boxing Day parade is about 80% gone. We still have quite a few seats for the New Year's Day parade. So if you miss it on the Boxing Day parade, there's always a New Year's Day parade, but you have to go out and get your tickets. Ellery?
Good morning, all. Just a brief update to the preparations and the logistics of the Junkanoo season. Today we continuously having meetings with all stakeholders, Ministry of Works, BPL, Red Cross, ZNEST, Alive, CQ, and definitely the Royal Bahamas and Defense Force. By the way, I would like to say a special thank you to the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force for doing an immaculate job last year with the security of Junkanoo. I think that was one of the safest Junkanoo parades we ever experienced coming back off COVID. So once again, I'd like to say thank you for that. The police provided, and along with the Defense Force, 850 police officers. So just as last year, we would do the same thing. I will enforce that the general public who, cause mischief, this is another year that don't come if you're going to cause mischief, because that's a no problem or no problem zone. So that's one of the biggest things what we will enforce, especially moving forward in this Junkanoo season. Everyone wants to feel safe, so why not utilize the best in the country to make us feel safe at these events? Also, the ministry, we are responsible for the bleacher seatings, the platforms for the skybox for our sponsors, food vendors, the protocol team. We also work closely with Ministry of Works, so we can get the pruning of the trees, also any potholes that could be a challenge for the large costumes to get past. So we are working along with these companies feverishly. Actually, every week we have these meetings, so we all could be on one accord. And then the signage, we also provide the signage, porta potties, the Junkanoo vest, the Junkanoo credentials. This year also we have different plans to have different zones for photographers this year, so we could have a pretty much clear view of the parade. We wouldn't want so much persons to block the parade and block the movement of the parade. So that's where my team and the JCNP would come in and regulate that system. Also, I would just like to give a brief update on the schedule for Junkanoo, not only in New Providence, but the Family Islands. We have New Providence Parade, which is December 25th and January 1st. And Junior Junkanoo, we would also have next year, the 25th of January 2024. In Eleuthera, we have the Senior Junkanoo Parades that will be this year. Actually, they will be kicking off the Junkanoo Parade this year on December 23rd. Their Junior Junkanoo Parade will be on March 2nd. Exuma Senior Junkanoo Parade January 10th. Grand Bahama January 1st and January 27th. On Abaco February 14th. And Bimini February 24th. Sorry. That's it. I think we are going to make history again. Another successful parade once we have all hands on deck. Thank you.
How many persons can be accommodated with the bleachers from Frederick straight up to Rawson Square?
So for the entire seating from Frederick Street to Rawson Square, just under 8,000, I think 763 to be exact.
Okay, the times for the Boxing Day Parade will be 10 p.m. On the New Year's Day, that's the 25th, December 25th, 10 p.m. And New Year's Day will be at 2 a.m., sorry.
Are there further questions for Minister or Junkanoo?
What percentage of tickets are sold out for? I know you mentioned 80% for Boxing Day. What's the percentage that has already been sold for New Year's Day?
New Year's Day right now is about 30%, and that is traditional at this point. We're less than a week since ticket sales have commenced. The Boxing Day Parade typically sells out fast. New Year's Day ticket seats tends to pick up steam after the Boxing Day Parade. But we're on track to sell out the Boxing Day Parade, and we're hopeful that we could reach 75% for the New Year's Day Parade. But for New Year's Day Parade, there are a lot of competing factors. You have New Year's Day parties, you have church services, etc. So we always struggle with that one. But just as last year, we think we're going to hit the 75% mark for the New Year's Day Parade.
How many judges are set aside for the parade?
So for the parade this year, we have a judging pool of 50 Bahamians.
And the construction of the U.S. Embassy on Shirley Street, could that possibly impact people who view the parades on Bay Street going forward? No, Shirley Street going forward?
So I don't think the construction in itself would impact the parade so much as the construction on the road. So we still see there's quite some holes in the road due to construction that we are still working on to be resolved prior to the parade. We don't put seating, traditional seating in that area. That's more standing zone, so we won't be impacted that way. So it's more at street level, which Ellery and the Ministry of Works are feverishly working to have resolved, repave prior to the parade.
I know last year with judging, I know scores were tabulated on a tablet, and I know that was provided by Live. Are we still seeing the same
Yes.
thing?
So as the minister stated, we're not moving backwards in regards to our technology. If you notice over the past few years, since we moved to digital and the digital format, you don't see those protests and people after the parade rowing and want to go to Junkanoo Court and all of that. So the system is fully digitalized. As a matter of fact, when the last group performs on Bay Street and crosses Rawson Square, the scores will be ready. So we anticipate again that by 11 a.m., the scores will be called again.
How many groups can we anticipate performing?
So we have a full house. We have 7 Category A groups. We have 18 Category B groups, and we have 22 individual performers, as well as about 3 or 4 fun groups. And so the parade is full. We want to encourage the public to be on time. It's 10 p.m., not 10 p.m. Bahamian time. We will, over the upcoming days, be flooding social media with the seating chart so you can know which gate to enter to get to your seat. We want everyone in place by 9:30. There won't be any long ceremonies, and so we anticipate that by 10 p.m. The parades will be started. We would like to get the parades or conclude the parades by noon the following day. And so in order for that to happen, we're asking not only the groups to be on time, but with the public as well. One of the things we struggled with in the past with public coming late to parades is that the parades being held up so persons could cross to get to their seats. And so we want everyone to be on time. All groups will be prepared to parade at 10 p.m. or 2:01 a.m. And that means we need the public to be follow suit and be in place as well. So it doesn't matter if your favorite group is coming out 5 and you think they're going to come out 5 a.m. Please be fair to everyone, see what everyone has to offer, and be in your place. As I stated, and Ellery stated, and the minister stated, this will be some huge parade. This will be extremely competitive. All of the groups are coming for the defending champs, One Family and Colors. And so this is an exciting time. And I'm just waiting. I can't wait. Junkanoo is the greatest show on earth. I think only 2 things in my lifetime is better and bigger than Junkanoo, and that's Beyonce and Michael Jackson. So other than that, and one dead. And so this is the hardest show on earth. We want everyone to come out, support your favorite group, support all Junkanooers, as this is going to be an exciting show.
Has any consideration been given to additional seats, and is that even possible logistically?
It's difficult at this time. We know the venue that we are looking at. Going forward, we have already identified some areas next year that we can possibly implement some additional seating. And we're going to work with the ministry, with the seating vendor, C-Cube, to make that a reality. The issue with the seating is that despite the fact that it's limited, Bahamians, for whatever reason, are sentimental about a few particular spots on the parade. So I think as a Junkanoo community, as partners in government, we need to find different zones on the current makeup to bring excitement to that so people could want to sit in other areas. And so we need to glorify another section other than Rawson Square so persons could feel that is value as well. And so all of those things are on the table. Unfortunately, Bay Street is the economic heartbeat of the island. It isn't designed for a street parade. And so we have to do what we have to do to make it work. And so we're working with all of our stakeholders to try and make it a reality.
Has any groups, I guess, we are in an inflationary period. Inflation is very real. Has groups expressed that inflation has been, I guess, have any impact on them in trying, because we know it's very costly to get to B. Yeah. So has that been like a discussion?
So just as society, we have experienced inflation as well. Junkanoo is a very, very expensive thing, both at the group level and the individual level. It takes a Category A group $250,000 to perform on Bay Street. The average individual Junkanoo performance, in particular the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, for continuing to step up to the plate and help us and assist us with funding, as well as stakeholders and corporate environments such as Alive, Collect Bear, Bahama, so many other persons and companies that does it. We're all stakeholders. This is a $23+ million show that goes on that road. And so there's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of effort. We don't make any money of Junkanoo, and Junkanoo know it. As the minister stated, the former Junkanoo, a Junkanoo. Some of you in the reporting call, Junkanoo is, you know the struggles that we go through, the time and effort away from family and loved ones that we put into this just to go on Bay Street, celebrate for 13 hours or so to say we win, or we lose, or we get robbed. And so that's what it is about. That's the Bahamian tradition, and it's more about passion for us than accolades. And it's nothing like Junkanoo.
Has it ever been, I guess, recommended by the Junkanoo community to government to, put in incentives, I guess, in terms of taxes, in terms of bringing costumes, material in?
Yep.
From a custom aspect, is that
So absolutely. So the government has stepped up greatly. We received duty-free concessions on materials for Junkanoo already, and so that's a great benefit to us. I think we need to explore additional revenue streams to help assist with Junkanoo and sports in other cultures, similar to other countries, to take some of the burden off Junkanoo. I still believe I have the best minister. I can say that proudly. He's very attentive. Then I've experienced a few, and so but our ministry is underfunded, and we need to pray, preach, and hope that the powers that be could infuse some more funding into the ministry, so we could take this thing to greater heights. But that's for his battle and cabinet. But I can say to the Bahamian public, it's not for effort. Because every day he's begging and clawing for more resources and to make it better for us, and so we do need an influx of funding. But I believe we have the right leadership in place, and as most things, it's just time and us being consistent. And I think it'll continue to do good for us as a community.
Very quickly, you mentioned very briefly about the Junkanoo performances in the Family Islands. Could you touch, and maybe the minister might like to speak about it, how important it is culturally and financially for Junkanoo to take place on the Family Islands?
Well, each island have its uniqueness. The further down you go, Cat Island, they have a certain way to how they pace and even just perform. We have Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama is almost similar to New Providence, right? So, I mean, in every island, it like I said, it's a difference. We are strong with Junior Junkanoo over on those Family Islands because, that's the fetus of Junkanoo, period. But, however, on the Family Islands, that's their joy and their passion. So that also helps the development of Junkanoo on those Family Islands. So, once we have Junkanoo on those Family Islands, everything is good. And like I said, that's the only way that we could keep Junkanoo alive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And Dion, Beyonce may want to consider infusing Junkanoo into her next routine. You should give her a call. Absolutely. All right? Now, I know that the press has spoken with the Prime Minister probably every day this week, which is a record, which probably means you don't have any questions for me today. All right? All right. Well, we will move things right along with our small business feature for the week, in the person of Ms. Chanel Ferguson and Delicious Occasions. So she's here to tell us about her business, and of course, she has a little taste. Proof for the pudding is in the eating. Ms. Ferguson, please.
Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chanel Ferguson. I am the owner of Delicious Occasions Catering. It's a home-based business that I started around about 13 years ago. I started out very early in the local restaurants at the age of 18. That's where I grew my love for the kitchen. From there, I moved into the major hotels like Radisson, where I did pastry, and British Colonial Hilton, just before I ventured out to start my own business. Pastry was really my first love. I went to Woodridge, Illinois, back in 2008, where I learned how to, the art of cake baking and decoration, as well as pastry. Well, from then, starting my own business. I'm watching it bloom every day, and I'm proud to see that I'm becoming very popular through my country. About 2 months ago, we traveled to Colorado just to do a family friend wedding, and that ended up turning out to be very lucrative because Colorado State University became interested, and they actually flew here, and they had a session where I was able to cater for them. So it's proud to know that I took Bahamian cuisine out to the country. But every day I pride myself with my slogan, which is delicious occasions. We make your special occasion a tasty one. My sampling menu for today is I have conch wraps, I have garlic shrimps, and I have a guava jerk wings. And for something sweet, it's my very famous pumpkin cheesecake. And to wash it down, some guava lemonade. But you can find me on Facebook under Delicious Occasions, and I left cards that you're quite happy to come and try it me out. Thank you very much.
Where are you located?
I'm located in Garden Hills, the great Garden Hills constituency. It's where, yes, Great Garden Hills constituency is where I'm located. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ferguson. We have a full buffet there. We'll worry about our waistlines in January. Well, that ends our press conference for today. Thank you so much, everybody. And of course, you can reach out to us anytime for information and assistance. Good day.